I know better than to sit on that end. I'm sitting over here.
Stan, you've been sitting much too long. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Truth, a radio program designed with you in mind.
I'm trying to get you out of the rig.
This is the program.
See the rig?
A program whose sole purpose is to empower you, our listeners, for information leads to knowledge, and knowledge is power. And as always, I want to empower you to take control of your life, those things that impact you, your family, and your community.
Can you let those people just talk so I can get out of here?
Always to.
Just test them.
Hello.
We need to do a test. Say hi.
Hello.
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 No, do that again.
Hello.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not
Okay.
talking big, John. Hello.
Oh,
I'm just sitting here.
He's doing more than sitting.
Here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. It is good to be back. I just showed up to give Betty some information, and she said, "You're here, do the show." So I said, "Only if you remain." So you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, and my co-host, of course, Miss Betty. And as has been stated, I'm Gwen Azama-Edwards, former city commissioner, retired city clerk, city of Daytona Beach, and current president, CEO of AE Enterprises, Inc., a consulting firm on politics and ethics. And as always, we want to encourage you to go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com so you can access those powerful and awesome resource listings with links to information that makes you all powerful. Those are links to the municipalities, the county agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, and advocacy groups. And as always, we want you to take part in the poll that we have going. Now, we are going to be switching out the polls. We had a poll that was asking you about benefits and the like, and it ended up being 50-50 of those who believe that, you know, Social Security and all that good stuff are benefits, governmental benefits, and those who didn't. So actually we ended up with like a 50-50 at the very end. What we're going to be asking you, of course, has to do with the Florida Supreme Court's decision in terms of the health care legislation as to whether or not you are in support of that or not. Now, we know that they made a decision about it being constitutional. The healthcare legislation that was passed by President Barack Obama and the Congress, but do you agree with that? And you know, that's all over the place, we know, but I wanted to get a feel for what the locals feel. What is it that you feel in regards to that healthcare legislation? We want to give a shout out to all of our listeners. I want to give a shout out to Betty Rowe, who is just such an awesome, awesome friend, and who has just been such a great host of this show, and she will continue to be, I assure you. That's why I didn't let her leave tonight. So, but we also had the opportunity of bringing on a group of persons who want to talk to us about, and I was really kind of torn, I have to say. I was kind of torn about whether to call this a disease, or, because you know, there are some ailments that people have, and some people, they hate to call it a disease, and they want to call it either a disease, or they want to call it a disorder, or they want to call it something else. But we know that Alzheimer's is, and it is referred to as a disease, but it is something that strikes at almost every household, whether it be a direct relative or an indirect relative or friend or neighbor or something else. And it's a disease that is heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching as I talk to my friends who have parents who have gone through or are going through the stages of dementia, and or they're actually experiencing early stages of Alzheimer's. And in fact, for my guests, I talked to a friend whose mother was going through that recently, and she was saying what is so difficult. And I thought, in a way, you know, okay, your mother, she remembers certain things, but there's certain things that she doesn't remember. And you know, perhaps some of the stuff that she doesn't remember, you know, the fact that she doesn't remember it really might make it easier. But what she said was, no, it really doesn't make it easier, because for me it makes it very difficult, because my mother's always been very organized. She's always been one of those persons who was in control, total control. She was always one of those go-getters, and to watch her like she is now, she said it is just so heartbreaking. But I said, but you remember those times, but in that she doesn't, maybe that makes it easier for her. And she said no, because what happens is that she starts to get very frustrated with herself and feel very bad about the fact that she can't, when she knows that she should remember something and she can't remember something. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk with the experts or the people who have worked very, very closely with others with this disease, and those who have a program and an event coming up to allow them to raise some funds, some much needed funds, so that they can continue with the research that is so necessary and so important when it comes to this disease, and it allows everyone to get involved. Because like I said, everybody in some form or fashion, whether it be a friend, a neighbor, a family member, or whatever, they are touched by this disease. And what is kind of strange in a way is that it was always kind of thought that it would be something that the elderly are faced with, but actually I can remember reading a story of a person in Volusia County who was in her 40s who was actually touched by it. And she went through that whole phase kind of quickly, and with her husband and her children watching. So we do want to give a listen to our guest, who will share with us some information about Alzheimer's. And I hope in part you not only will talk about the impact, because I know information I'm looking at talks about the economic impact of Alzheimer's, but there's a psychological and a mental impact for not just those who have it, but for those who are taking care of either parents or loved ones that have it as well, and the need for respite for those individuals as well. And I know that Council on Aging and some other organizations get into some of that. As you can tell, Bet, I've not gotten away from talking and running my mouth since I've been gone. So that's still kind of easy. But we do want to hear more about Alzheimer's and some of the stats regarding it. I have some in front of me, but to have you guys talk about that. But first, if you would introduce yourselves to our listening audience, and then talk about Alzheimer's, what it is, what it isn't, signs of Alzheimer's for those who think that either they have it or they know or have a loved one who has it, to give them some ideas on that, and then where they can go for help, and then we'll get into the event so that we don't miss out on that as we get closer to it. And as you start to talk, I'm gonna play around with the sound to make sure that they hear every word. Whoever wants to start first, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Katie Garro. I'm the development manager for the Alzheimer's Association Central and North Florida chapter.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you're here from?
I am based out of Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
I am.
So thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
and making the drive. And then our other guest is?
I'm Deborah Smith, and I'm a hairdresser, and I do hair at Alzheimer's unit.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you give back, you give service.
Yes, I'm
for
fairly.
those who are.
Yeah, I'm fairly new at this. So.
Now let me ask you, did you get into that because of not just your desire to help and provide this service to Alzheimer's patients, but did you have someone who was affected in any way, or?
No, a friend of mine, she's a nurse's aide to one of her patients that was checked into this Alzheimer unit. I have done, I performed duties at other nursing homes, you know, but I've never been in a direct Alzheimer's unit like I have now. It's very touching to be in there.
Yes, so, yes, I would think so.
I was just, you know, Betty told me this was going on tonight, and I said, well, you know, I'll just come and sit in. And,
wonderful,
you know,
wonderful. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for coming.
Thank
And
you.
we don't want to forget Betty Rowe, Master Feng Shui Consultant. I've even got to the place where I can pronounce it. It just
Wow.
rolls off my lips.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed, Brett.
my gosh, she is a master, period, and very, very,
But
very
I
dear
still make
and
mistakes.
good friends. but what is that saying about to err is human, to forgive divine? Hey!
I'm learning lessons, darling. That's what it says about me.
Oh my gosh. But please, Katie, go ahead and share with us, if you will, about Alzheimer's.
Yeah, so I work for the Alzheimer's Association, and we cover 31 counties in Central and North Florida. So we're just west of Tallahassee, all the way over to Jacksonville, south to Vero, and then west, including Orlando and Alachua County. So it's quite an area for the 10 of us who work for the association. And my job primarily is on the fundraising side, but we have a terrific program side that our organization's very proud of, that offers support groups and care consults, valuable resources, informations, referrals, a 24/7 helpline. We do first responder training, which I think is one of the most interesting programs we offer, which is training law enforcement, EMTs, fire rescue, how to approach people and signs for people that have Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, people with dementia and Alzheimer's find themselves in somewhat dangerous situations often. Wandering is a real issue. And the way a police officer should approach someone with Alzheimer's is quite different than your average person. I know that I've done a simulated dementia kind of thing that that a place up in Jacksonville offers, and I was flabbergasted in my 30s, putting on this suit, how quickly I became disoriented and scared. I think if somebody would have tapped me on the shoulder,
wow.
I would have jumped out of my skin. And so to think if I was actually someone with Alzheimer's and there was a cop walking towards me with a gun on his hip, screaming, I think it's a really valuable resource and a program that I'm really proud of.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So what are some of the signs for Alzheimer's? And I have to say that my neighbor, his wife developed Alzheimer's, and they had been married for over 50 years. I think when that happened, they were married probably a good 60 or 70 years, to tell you the truth. But rather than putting her into a home or something, he kept her. And we went through, I don't think Walter would mind me sharing this, we went through times with her where she was continually screaming that he was going to kill her, and all of these types of things, and running out of the house half-clothed and all of that. But he had informed the neighbors, in our cul-de-sac about what was going on, and so we were aware of it. So if we found her wandering or something, my husband, who was a police chaplain at the time, he knew how to kind of talk with her and deal with her. So he would kind of help her and, take her back, and you say certain things to them that, because many times I think they believe that they're already where they're supposed to be, and when they're in unfamiliar territory, then something terrible is going on. It's kind of like a child might react when they're in totally unfamiliar territory and they don't see a loved one anywhere nearby.
Right.
And for them, of course, it could be a loved one, but they don't recognize them. So
absolutely, you can imagine how scary that would be
Yes.
if you were in your own neighborhood, but you look around and you don't recognize a thing or a person.
Yeah.
I think that your neighbor absolutely did the right thing, which is to let the community know. There's unfortunately a lot of stigma with Alzheimer's disease that we're trying to break through. Much like breast cancer 20 years ago, there was that stigma, I don't want to talk about it, it's slightly embarrassing. Or like you said at the beginning of the show, sometimes you don't know how to really think about it. Is it normal aging? Is it Alzheimer's? Is it, a various form of dementia? So there are some warning signs, but of course until you go in and see a specialist, you won't know what it is. And I think unfortunately a lot of people, especially the elderly population, will go to their general practitioner, and GPs don't always know the difference between normal aging and dementia. So a good example is it's normal to lose your keys and not be able to find them, but it's not normal.
Do that a lot.
Yeah, I know. So that's not something to worry about, right? But it's not normal to not know what the keys do if they're in your hand and you just can't remember what do my keys do. Or it's normal to forget to pay a bill on time. But it's not normal to not know how to keep a budget anymore, if it's something that you've done, you know, for your life.
Right.
So there's normal aging, and then there's certainly something that you know need to be a little more aware of. But like I said, I think your neighbor did the right